Hello, welcome or welcome back. Today's video is just going to be a cozy little book recommendation video. I have a few books, well, not a few, I actually have quite a lot of books that I'm going to be recommending for you to read this fall. Most of these books are going to be books that I already own, but I do have one book that I do not own that I do want to talk about, so we'll talk about that one first, and it is A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. This book I read maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was phenomenal. Maybe my current favorite middle grade. I have a lot of favorites in general, but this may be my current favorite. This book follows 3 sisters. Really, the plot is escaping me right now. Because like I said, I read it 3 years ago. But I remember that it follows 3 sisters. If I remember correctly, it's multiple perspectives. You get a perspective from each sister. And these sisters are going on a journey because they have this magic that runs through their family. It is so autumnal. There's like sailing scenes, but not really sailing because they're like in a canoe or something in this foggy bayou. They live in this small town with cobblestone roads and worn down buildings. It is just so autumnal, so whimsical, and I absolutely adore the book. And magical. A bunch of magic, very easy to read. And it's just a fun little journey all about sisterhood and friendship, and I adored it. I may even reread it this fall because I loved it so much. Screenshot if you want. Don't want to keep you here all day, so I'm gonna try to fly through these books for you. What do I start with? I guess we could start with a book that I have yet to really recommend on this channel, which what am I doing, because this book was fantastic, and that is The Great Believers by Rebecca Makkai. I read this book in maybe April, and I loved it. First of all, it takes place in Chicago, and that is such a autumnal city for me. But this book pretty much follows a cast of characters during the start of the AIDS epidemic. The first perspective follows Yale, who is within this friend group of men and queer people that are experiencing AIDS, the epidemic in general, dying from the disease, and attending each other's funerals and memorials. The book actually opens up with all of the characters going to Nico's funeral, and Nico is just one of their friends. And Nico is also Fiona's brother, and there's a different perspective of Fiona in this book. So Yale's point of view takes place in 1985, and Fiona's perspective takes place in 2015. And in Fiona's perspective, she's just trying to save her daughter from this cult. And oh my god, this book actually tore my heart out. I actually have like convinced myself that I haven't read it just to be delusional and not have to experience that heartbreak over and over, you know? This book honestly shows the ripple effect of grief so well, and it also really covers death, disease, and like I said, grief. The way it covered grief and the AIDS epidemic and the politics surrounding it and just the human emotions of all of the characters, the realistic situations that they were going through, it was beautiful. It was so well done, so well written. Fiona's perspective broke me. The last chapter ruined my life, not gonna lie. And then you also start to explore how these characters deal with deaths. Fiona specifically, because she really takes the brunt of all of this trauma and all of these characters dying and her experiencing all of that, and how that impacts her present day relationships and friendships, and even her relationship with her daughter, whom she's going to rescue. And it tore me apart. We're just gonna start to stack there. Let's pop on over to romance. I'm gonna give y'all a romance series recommendation, and I know if you watch this channel often, you're gonna be like, girl, shut up about this series. But this is like my holy grail. the Bromance Book Club series. This series is actually 5 books long, and it is a romance series, but it's one of those, like, I'm very nitpicky about romance books. So whenever I'm recommending a romance book, you can go ahead and assume that a lot more than the romance is going on. So this series is actually 5 books long, but I bought my 3 favorites. And it's an interconnected standalone series, so you can read them in whatever order you want, but I recommend reading the whole series in order. So I'm going to give you a synopsis of each book. So the first one is the Bromance Book Club. This whole series is written by Alyssa K. Adams. This one follows Gavin and Thea. They are a married couple, but they're on the verge of getting a divorce. Gavin doesn't really know what to do with his life. He's like in love with, obsessed with Thea. Like when Thea told him that she wanted a divorce, he was literally crying and throwing up. Gavin's best friend is witnessing Gavin like sob over this marriage, and he decides to recruit him for the Bromance Book Club, which is a book club of men that read strictly romance novels because they think that the romance novels will help them repair and get into the relationships that they want. So Gavin joins the book club, and he's given a book to read that will help him start to court Thea again and get them sparks flying so this marriage can last. You know what I'm saying? It is so good. This one had some parenting sprinkled throughout it, marriage troubles, and oh my god, like so much talk about the patriarchy and masculinity and what is it called? And just like the treatment of women within romantic relationships, like there's this one specific quote, I'm gonna actually go find it for you, where Mac, my favorite character, he was talking about how romance books are literally a blueprint for how women want to be treated. Romance novels are primarily written by women for women, and they're entirely about how they want to be treated and what they want out of their life and in a relationship. We read them to feel more comfortable expressing ourselves and to look at things from their perspectives. Mac, if you're watching this video, which I know you're not because you don't exist, put a ring on it. Put a ring on it. I mean, like, I'm open any day. The next book is Undercover Bromance. This one follows Mac and Liv. Liv is Thea's sister from book 1. Didn't like her in book 1, loved her in this book, and loved her for the rest of the series. And I honestly hated her so much that I was about to not read this book. But of course, since it had my baby Mac in it, I had to give in. Anyway, this one is kind of a dislike to lovers. Her dream job is being a pastry chef, like a professional chef, and she's working at this very high-end restaurant. Mac comes in one day and ultimately gets her fired. It launched into a whole series of events, and obviously them ended up falling in love. But this book also heavily touches on the Me Too movement. Book 3 of the series touches on the Me Too movement the most. If you are triggered by that, please don't read that book. You can read this book. I think you could skip it in this book. But book 3, skip that. Don't even look at that. I don't remember the title of book 3. That was kind of my least favorite of the series. It is a nerdy romance, which is shocking for that to be my least favorite, and I am a nerdy romance girl. Then we go to my favorite, Isn't It Bromantic, by obviously Alyssa K. Adams. This one is a childhood friends to lovers and second chance romance and forced proximity. Oh my god, y'all. This one follows Elena and Vladimir. They obviously were childhood friends, and they're also about to get a divorce. But Vladimir, he's a hockey player, and he breaks his leg while he's doing some type of tournament. I don't know sports, I really don't. He breaks his leg while playing hockey, and obviously Elena comes to his house. It's technically still their house, but she stays there, helps take care of him, but she's the one that knows him the most. And this book was just so good. This is also a good winter book recommendation because it's kind of taking place in between like in the transitioning period of autumn to winter. It's so good. I would sit here and scream quotes at you, but I don't want to spoil anything for you. So many banger scenes, y'all. Like, I dream about this book at night. Okay, this is the quote I was looking for because I wanted to read it to you. Her gentle giant, her hug in human form, the man she never deserved and never would. This time when the urge to hug him flared, she didn't fight it. She wrapped her arms around his waist and pulled her cheek to his chest. Within her embrace, his breath caught and his muscles stiffened. It's been a long time since you hugged me. His voice was thick and gravelly. You looked like you needed it. He lowered his forehead to the crown of her hair and inhaled deeply. I did. Shut up. That scene did it for me. That's the Burmese Book Club series. Adored. Specifically, these 3 books. Go ahead and screenshot, because you need that in your life. Then I'm going to go ahead and recommend you a classic. Sula by Toni Morrison. This one follows obviously a girl named Sula and her best friend Nell. It kind of explores the juxtaposition between their 2 lives and Sula's very messy and chaotic life and Nell's very strict and neat life. And it's very interesting because it also follows like them falling apart as friends and Sula betraying Nell and Nell like coming to terms with the fact and discovering that Sula is pretty much the love of her life and Sula is her soulmate in a platonic way. This book was so messy and so entertaining. I literally read this book in one sitting. I know it's a classic and people find classics very scary. Even if you have read no classics and you don't know where to start, Sula by Toni Morrison. This has got me into reading classics for real. Then we have a graphic novel, which is Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. My brother gave me this book for Christmas and it is stunning. Lord have mercy. Like, that is gorgeous. As well as the art style. This is the prequel. Is that the word? The prequel to the Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows series called the Grishaverse. And this is all about the Darkling, aka the villain of that series. This is all about his upbringing, his backstory, and why he's the way he is. And it's very interesting, and obviously because it's a graphic novel you can get through it pretty quickly. I really enjoyed it. Then we have another middle grade called The Strangers by Margaret Peterson Haddix. This one is a mystery and it follows these 3 kids called the Greystone Kids, whose mom goes on this business trip, and they end up finding out that their mom actually didn't go to a business trip and she went to this whole parallel universe where they have doppelgangers that look exactly like them, are interested in the same things that they're interested in, and pretty much have a mimic family that they have, but they are in this evil world. So entertaining. It's also multiple perspectives and so interesting. A great mystery book for people of any age. You don't even have to be a kiddo to enjoy this one. Whenever little kids tell me that they like math or they like science and stuff like that, I recommend them this book because this is for those kids. Oh my god, this book smells good. Okay, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but this book was so good. Definitely perfect for the fall. I read it maybe 2 falls ago. Really quickly, I am going to talk about Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. I know you're surprised that we even made it this long before I started talking about Talia Hibbert, but this is her young adult novel that follows Celine and Bradley. They are ex-best friends, now pretty much nemesis, and they are going on this camping trip for the scholarship competition. and they start to rekindle their friendships and some sparks start flying. This was perfect. It literally took place in September all the way until January. It's perfect for autumn, and it was a bunch of camping scenes, which means that there was like forests and autumnal woods, stuff like that. Yes. Then we have The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Shafsky. I know that fantasy, everybody's doing this fantasy fall, so here's my contribution, because this is my favorite fantasy book. This book pretty much follows this gang of misfits who are trying to navigate the undergrounds of elite Paris, and they're going on this heist. They're solving all these mysteries to find these like ancient artifacts and to get their leader into this high position in this world. It is so good. There's a nerdy romance subplot. There's ciphers. There's like mysteries that you as the reader can solve. It's so good. It is so good. Last but not least, the book that I've been dying to get to, Bad Curry by Jessica Johns. Another book that I've been talking about so much since I read it. This book follows a girl named Mackenzie who is having these very vivid and weird dreams that are crossing over with reality. Like, she will have a dream about her running through the forest and grabbing a branch, and then she'll wake up and the branch is in her hand. It's so scary, but these dreams end up luring her back to her hometown, which is the town that she ran away from about 2 years ago. And when she gets to her town, she starts to tell all of her, and by the way, the town used to be a booming oil industry, and now it's this abandoned place full of like worn down buildings and barely anybody's there. So when she gets home, she starts to tell her family about these dreams that she's having, and the dreams start to plague the people around her and lure her into this forest. So there's a haunted forest, there's a whimsical creature, and so many subliminal messages on indigenous scars, greed, and grief. Oh my lord, I can't wait to write an essay on this book. I really want to. I really want to. Absolutely one of my favorite books of the year, maybe in my top 3 of the year. I loved this book, and I highly recommend it. Those are all of the novels that I have to talk to you guys about today. I hope you found something new to read from this video, and I'll see you very soon. Toodles!